What's up guys, this is Cowthers and welcome back to the kind of video where I four table mix steaks for you guys live and go through my live thought process. Much of the same today as you will have seen last week if you watched that one. And yeah, I'm just going to jump right into the action, I guess. Table 1 is the 100 NL table as always with orange, and for some reason orange seems to me a colour that applies more to the highest stakes, and I've kind of downgraded the colours as I see them sort of fit the stakes. This is like the colour code to get used to, I guess, because I'm going to try and keep it consistent when I make these videos. Right off the bat on table 1, this is going to be a fold, unfortunately. We make a 5x ISO of a couple of limps, and this guy who's a fish, I don't know too much about him, but we can now conclude that he's more of the sort of aggro spazzy fish variety than a passive one, decides to go ahead and just open chip the flop. If I had a good king there, like king queen, I think I would just call. I expect to see a lot of random ragged top pair, some draws, things like that, such that queens without a king blocker just doesn't have great equity against those hands. Like I don't expect him just to be shoving like under pairs or middle pair there super often. I don't expect to see air very often either. I expect him mostly see, like I say, top pair or some kind of, it's not that his range needs to be really strong, but it's, the draws are going to have good equity against me. The top pair has me completely crushed, so overall I'm going to need very close to 50% equity there to call, because just to clarify why that is, we're going to go into bet divided by bet plus pot situation to figure out how often we need to be good here. So what's happening is that our opponent is shoving into close to a non-existent pot relative to his shove size. If that $11 was gone and he just shoved 77.66, we would need exactly 50%, not considering rake, which obviously makes it worse, for us to call. But because there is a little bit of money in there, that's going to bring things down a little bit. We're going to need maybe 45, 46% equity or something like that, maybe a bit less, to make the call there. Ace 9, this guy opens, I don't really know anything about him. I'm going to peel one street here and look to, I think it's definitely marginal. Probably one of the weakest hands I would peel without a draw here. It could even just be a fold on the flop because people don't see by this board very frequently, I'm not sure. At 25 no limit, in fact, my population read, I'm going to continue to go through my population reads of each of these stakes, and I do know them fairly well due to teaching students that play all of these stakes. I think that should have probably just been a fold on the flop, just because I do probably have 5 outs against his range most of the time, although not always. And I don't know, I don't think the call's horrible, I think it's definitely very close, but I think that people do c-bet like kind of randomly, I suppose, at 25 no limit. That is one of my population reads, and that is a board that they probably do that a little bit less on, but yeah, it's just going to be a very difficult out position there for that call to be super profitable. I think folding might be slightly better, just because it's going to be hard to get to showdown with the best hand there. Our opponent can, I don't expect to get barreled light on that board at all, but I also am not certain that he c-bets that flop, or the average reg c-bets that flop super wide or anything like that. Ace 9, this is a kind of interesting spot. This hand is like definitely a little bit too strong to fold, I think, with 2 fish here. I could squeeze, but I don't want to get like shoved on by one of the fish, and I think my fold equity is very minimal, and I think I'm going to end up going 3-way in the bloated pot with this hand, so I'm actually going to like to call and play with the absolute best position against these 2 fish here. I think it's going to be totally fine. 3-betting on the 10 NL table with ace queen off. I don't necessarily want a flatting range there. This guy in big blind does seem to be some kind of weaker player, but he's not been very active, so he's not someone who I think is coming along all the time or anything like that. And ace jack under the gun, very easy open on the 50 NL table. Ace 10 in the cutoff, very, very easy open. On the 25 NL table, we get squeezed here, and yeah, like I say, one of these fish is going to like shove and stuff a lot if someone squeezes, so I would expect this guy just to have a value range if he's competent, for the same reasons that I didn't squeeze ace 9 off here myself. Our fold equity is very minimal. This is a common spot where people spew by squeezing. That's elite. Don't do it when you have 2 fish and very minimal fold equity, and a hand that's not ahead of their continuing range and is not happy to go 3-way into a big pot. So if the reg folds here, I think that we should note that he is not aware of that. Yeah, see, I think that's a mistake. I don't think he should have a squeeze fold range there. like even if you squeeze like ace queen there, I think you're going to be like kind of committed to call it. Maybe not. Maybe you can get away with squeeze folding something like ace queen, ace jack, king queen. Those hands are probably okay to do it with. It's not necessarily a mistake. It's just that if he's squeezing much wider than that, I think it probably is. This is a board that I'm going to elect to just give up on. I don't have a spade. If I had like the queen of spades there, I'd certainly bet. Ace of spades, I'd certainly bet. But usually I just have, this is very close to the bottom of my range for having absolutely nothing. And I do have ace queen high that can sometimes be good at showdown, and I don't mind some turn cards like a queen or an ace. So there aren't a spade. I think that check folding this flop is just absolutely fine. I don't think I want to embark on the mission of trying to make sort of like under pairs with a spade fold over multiple streets, hoping that one doesn't come. Yeah, there are just much better hands in my range to bluff that flop with, that I have more equity with. So I just elect to c-bet with those and check fold ace queen high. That can sometimes win and sometimes improve. Jack 7, 25 and 11. I mean, I would open this hand probably at all of these stakes, unless it was on this table 1 here, because this guy seems to be kind of active. With his 3-betting, I think we can definitely conclude that based on what we've just seen. But yeah, Jack 7 off, I'm going to go ahead and open here. King 9, I don't need to defend to that size of 3-bet. I will 4-bet some hands there, but that's not going to be one of them, because I'm conscious of my range becoming like far too wide, basically. Just going to c-bet this flop. It's not the best for me, but I do have a double gutter, which is very nice. Important to note that an 8 is also an out for us here. Some people would miss that, even though it might seem like kind of basic. It's easy just to overlook that you have a double gutter there. If I had a single gut shot, check folding wouldn't be totally unreasonable, I don't think. But c-betting would probably be okay as well. If we're c-betting all our gut shots there, and given we want to check a fair bit of our range on that board, and by that I mean hands like Queen X, hands like some weak King X, 10x, 9x, we want to check these hands, I think we should be check folding. We shouldn't be c-betting too much, because it's going to be hard for our c-bet range to be like uber strong there. We do have a stronger range than our opponents, but he's also not going to be folding like super often there, I don't think. So I think that we should look to not just c-bet anything with a gutter, or we'll be c-betting a range that's a little bit too weak for my liking. I'm going to make a 3-bet here. I think it's fairly standard on table 3. Guy's a weaker player. I expect to get some folds since he's out of position. I don't really want to get squeezed. I'm not thrilled about playing the hand like multi-way or anything, and I think if he does call, we have a hand that plays fine in position. It's just an exploitative thing to try and isolate what I take to be a fairly tight-looking player, basically. Could even be a fish or something like that, but you know, probably just some kind of tight reg or something. And we have a hand that is, yeah, got a good blocker and probably should fall into our 3-bet bluff range there. Ace 10 suited. Pretty standard call. I don't see a reason to 3-bet this hand yet. I don't want to get 4-bet, and it's just good enough for me to defend, so let's defend it and start off a bit more polarized. This guy also looks very active, so I'm not, but that's not to say that I think I can 3-bet this hand for value. If this was a fish, definitely, who was opening this wide, I think I would go ahead and 3-bet this hand for value for sure, but against a regular or likely regular unknown kind of active player so far, it's just too likely that I randomly get 4-bet bluffed because he's over bluffing significantly because he doesn't know how to construct his range or something like that, and 3-bet folding is not good, 3-bet calling isn't great, and I don't know I can get called by worse, so definitely a flat pre just to completely kill that spot to death. I'm going to go ahead and just 3-bet this Jack 7 off here. I think it's fine, blind versus blind, and I'm check calling here on turn and river. I expect him to be unbalanced here for the most part and bet most of his flush draws on the flop, and for that reason I think I can just check call river as well. The flush card will possibly shrink his value range. I don't know if he even value bets a hand like pocket jacks or anything there, so I think river's an easy check call for me. He has 9-7. I have no idea why he bets the turn. It seems really bad. Yeah, he's a weaker player, definitely, because he's not reloaded, and that turn bet is just certainly bad. This guy dunks half pot. I think the calling is probably the best play. Although I'm not sure. I think throwing in a small raise might be good as well, but he does seem spazzy. And I'd like to give him the option of leading complete air on future streets, basically. So I think calling is best here. It would be a slam dunk call if he'd like potted it or made it bigger. But we've seen him do like ridiculous stuff. So I just want to leave his range as wide as possible for that. Now he bets a little bit too small for me to want to just call. I want to get a bit more of the stacks in before the river. If I just call here, there'll be like 23 in and he'll still have 76 behind. It's just going to be difficult to get all the money in, especially if he donks really small in the river. So I think I do need to raise turn. And I'm going to raise turn to about, if I make it 20, there'll be 50. I'm going to make it 20 on the turn, shove river. I could go a bit smaller to try and induce or something like that. Would maybe be okay. But I don't expect him to fold ace-x, basically. And I'm just going to shove here. He's been really spazzy. Yes, he can... Oh wait, I've got a bow, so yeah, I have the nuts. I was going to say he can have 8-9, but we obviously beat that hand, so... Easy value shove. Yeah. And it's just as well we beat 8-9, because he did indeed have 8-9. Yeah. So calling on the flop just because we're in position, that's important to know. If we're out of position, we don't want to just slow play there. We probably want to raise just because... Our opponent then has way better control of whether money goes in on the turn, and he can check back the turn in a lot of situations, and that's just really bad for us if the pot stays tiny by the river. At least when we're in position, we prevent him from being able to keep the pot really small by making a min donk and then sort of like slowing down and just making sure the pot doesn't grow. We stop that from happening, and we just allow him to continue betting absolute air. Like if he's got like 5 deuce off there, that king jack was obviously an open by time down. If he's got 5 deuce off there, then we certainly want to allow him to continue betting hands that just have absolutely zero equity. Even hands like ace high there that might fall to a raise, but if they flop top pair, they're stacking off. So there's merit to slow playing there, both for getting our opponent to continue bluffing, and also the good old reason of giving our opponent a chance to catch up if he happens to have air like ace high, but a hand that will stack off on certain turns. It's very imperative that we allow him to hit those turns if he's lead folding the flop with those hands. I'm going to check call here with king jack. I think it's really standard. I want some hands to balance the fact that I just have a lot of ace-x when I check call this flop. I don't think it's a board that my opponent barrels super often, especially with the population read at 25 and L, where people don't tend to do that. Threes I can fold on table 1 to that size of 3-bet, but I will defend a smaller size there. And on this turn, I think we're pretty damn close to the bottom of our range. It is, yes, we pair it, but we have mostly ace-x and flushes. Well, maybe not mostly, but a large part of our range here is flushes and ace-x, and it's a turn card in which we are drawing dead against a lot of his range, and a lot of his range improves, so definitely a fold on the turn, but call on the flop, and that is fine. And another mistake people might make is they may just continue to slow play on that turn. I think that's also a mistake, because now with the board going two-tone, with the flush draw appearing, and possible straight draws are still there and things like that, and our opponent's bet again, indicating that maybe he doesn't have quite as weak a range as he did on the flop. It's definitely good to raise and make sure you can get all of that money in by the river. When you have a boat there, you should be just ensuring that you can get all the money in, you know, as easily as possible. So to call the turn, the pot would just be far too tiny. Any money you do make by making him bet again on the river with complete air kind of pales into insignificance when matched up with the fact that you just really need to stack him when he has like a pair or something like that. So I think to call that turn is definitely like a big mistake, especially when the board gets wetter. And there are now like gut shots and stuff like 10-9 and stuff that probably won't fold to a raise. It's just really awesome to get those hands to put money in drawing dead. So yeah, I was in Bristol for the long weekend there with my student group. That was, well, I say my student group, unfortunately not that many of them actually were able to come, being near to Christmas, money being tight, and sort of, you know, family and work obligations possibly being at their highest around this time of year, but we still got I met up with a couple of my students, and we played some live poker down there, some live 1-1, which was kind of fun, because, you know, when you play live 1-2, I don't know, I always find like if you're used to grinding 100 NL online, but then you're playing for like more than double the stakes, it can sometimes be a bit tilting, and you have to kind of remind yourself that you're playing those games because your edge is like massive. But with 1-1, it was just like playing 100 NL online, and like ridiculously soft. It was a lot of fun. I should open Queen 8 there and not be rambling about what I did at the weekend so much, probably. But yeah, it was good. We try and arrange these things like a few times a year, certainly at least. and we're going to be trying to do lots more of that in the future. So hopefully there'll be other venues around the UK. If you're a Grinder School member and you want to hit me up for coaching, that's another benefit. The Carrot Corner socials are definitely something to do, to be recommended. We in fact implemented this new kind of thing to do for fun, for a laugh, at the tables. King 10, I mean, I could 3-bet that hand. I do have a fish that's probably going to cold call me with a lot of stuff. I could even cold call this. Yeah, I'm going to cold call it. I wouldn't normally, but this fish in the blinds looks really bad. I think he's coming along like 100% of the time. Yes, I am in really bad shape against the opener's tight range, but I think that's probably okay. Ace 10, I can have a flying range here because I've got this fish in the blind who's on a mobile device and has 40 bucks. Who's probably just calling lots here, and I probably dominate buttons range quite well. So I think that's one of the rare exception spots where I can't afford to actually have a flattening range in the small blind. But when the unknown squeezes to 8, I'm just going to assume he has a strong range for now and not reshove ace 10. But certainly a hand I could reshove with good blockers and overcards to certain pairs if I thought that my opponent could be light there, for sure. So this new thing that we decided to start doing at the table was called Durring. You know the player Tom Dwan, Dur, one of the most famous and successful no-limit hold'em players of the modern era. Well, this guy 3-bets again here. I'm just going to shove now because I've had enough already. I'm like tilted. No, I'm not tilted, but I have definitely had enough because he squeezed the last hand. He's probably just some random, really aggro fish. My hand is way too good to fold, and I have fold equity here. I think shoving's better because just taking down the pot is shitloads of EV, and my hand has decent equity against a lot of stuff if he calls it off. So I think this is a good shove. And I think it's more plus EV than just flatting is, although flatting's definitely a plus EV as well. And he has queens, which is going to happen. So this Durring is basically involves pretending to be Tong Duan for one hand. So when Tong Duan, I don't know if you've ever seen Dur play live, but what he likes to do is he sort of brings out his chips in a very slow, robotic, kind of staring into space and blinking at the same time kind of fashion. King 10 in the hijack there, I can go either way. It's I mean, if this fish was in the blinds, it'd certainly be an open. So what me and my friend and student decided to do was randomly, like pre-flop, and we're just gonna like open the pot or something mundane and unexciting like that. We decide to bring out our chips like Dur and just act like really dramatic and blink lots of times and just gape with our mouth open and stare at the pot and let the chips sort of drop into the middle in ridiculous dramatic fashion, and everyone else at the table just sort of looks at you like this guy was just acting really like normally a minute ago. Gonna full jack 10 there for the 3-bet, pretty standard. King 3 here, I do have some backdoors, they're not very good. It's not a board that people necessarily see bet all the time, so I'm just gonna check fold. And that will be fine. I'm gonna lead the turn here as we pick up some equities. So yeah, you've got everyone else at the table sort of looking at you like, what is this guy all about? Why is he now acting like a complete moron? But of course, if that wasn't bad enough, like as soon as my student decided to do that, I just burst and I just erupted into laughter at the opposite end of the table. So they're just looking at us like, you complete idiots, basically. But it's hilarious, and yeah, it's fun to sort of do shit like that when you're playing live full ring, I guess, because it can be a little bit slow and you don't play that many hands. So you've got to find ways of keeping things interesting. So Durring in poker is a good thing to do. Durring in life is also a good thing to do as well. We discussed like the possibility of just going to like a shop and you're about to pay for whatever you've ordered, and you just sort of dur the money into the cashier's hand. So instead of just handing it over normally with a smile and saying have a nice day, you might decide to, I'm going to 3-bet this guy because I think he's a weaker player. I think he's a weaker player. I want to isolate him. I do not want to get squeezed. This hand's too good to fold, and he's very active so far. Yes, he did showdown queens in one hand, which kind of means that you might just be running hot for sure, but I still think this is profitable. We get cold call by the reg, which is definitely unfortunate. We didn't want that to happen. I'm going to just squeeze 10s here and get it in against the short stack opener on the 10NL table. King 5 can be a fold, be too wide to 4-bet that. You know, I'm just 4-betting absolutely everything. On this board, I am going to c-bet. I don't expect to get raised very much, and I have loads of equity, and I think my opponent can certainly have some hands that he's folding here, such as like ace queen that he cold called with or whatever. My range should be strong, or perceived to be quite strong, and bluff free because I've 3-bet a fish open from early position. With 10s here, we get called in 2 spots. I'm going to check flop. I think checking flop here is pretty standard. And going from there, If this guy shoves, I will probably be able to find a fold, I think, because his range is fairly tight from opening, and I just expect to see ace-x a lot, or sometimes even some hand like jacks. I don't really expect to see like king-queen here often enough to call this off. I don't think I have the sort of 33% equity that I need. If we were two-way there, it would be closer, because that should, in theory, make his shoving range a little bit more bluff-heavy, so I could maybe consider check-calling there if we were heads-up, but certainly not three-way. I don't think it's good. So yeah, you go to the shop and you buy your sandwich, and then the cashier says, $4.45 please, and then you just slowly reach your hand into your pocket, eyes blinking, mouth open, you sort of just gradually reach out and drop all the like pound coins all over the place like there. And that's just a baller thing to do, and it's just something I would recommend that you practice in general. It will come in handy if you ever come to one of our socials, if you become a student. And it's just a good life skill to have, you know, it's good for your confidence and audacity to be able to pull off a move like that and sort of, you know, not be fazed by the fact you just dirred all over the place. So yeah, hashtag dirring. That's all the rage. Back to poker. Or back to the sensible, non-silly elements of poker. Here's queens. That's certainly a far from silly hand. I think we should consider... Yeah, we could consider going like 3.5x, or I think this guy's a fish. This guy's also a fish. But I think 3x is fine. If I had like two fish in the blinds that never ever went away, I would definitely make it bigger there. And we get called in one spot, flop top set, which is quite a good thing to do. And we flop the nuts here as well. I'm just going to start by betting really big here, get all the money in over 3 streets. With queens, same kind of idea. There's an argument for checking back these flops sometimes. I actually reviewed a hand where that was an option in a recent video, in the last episode of Drowning on the River that I did actually, but I don't think it's great. I'm going to bet 5 here, which is a little bit bigger than what I would bet as standard, but that's because my opponent is a weaker player. Just continuing to get all the money in here. King Jack here. It's not a terrible spot to make a 4-bet bluff. It depends how strong my opponent's range is. He leads this turn. I think this is just a standard call. Don't really see a reason to raise, and we're going to just shove here. I could 4-bet bluff this spot. I just don't know how wide my opponent is going to decide to 3-bet against a fishy min open there. He could just have like a really strong range. He could have a much wider range that I have significant fold equity against. I don't know. There's always a chance of fishes cold calls, like never folds like king queen and stuff there as well, which is a little bit annoying. River's definitely a value bet. I shouldn't go too big because he's likely a fish who I can get a call from if he has like queen x or jacks or something like that. There is only one queen left in the deck, but there are still a bunch of queen x combos, assuming he's defending offsuit queens pre-flop. So I definitely think I need to bet the river, and I think 17 is good. I do get a call from jacks, which means that my thinking is certainly, my population read there for fish is good. First hand at the table for this person. This is not a horrible spot to raise. I'm going to do it. I think it's also a post that this girl has made, so if she's just posted there, it's probably a guy, but I just like to pretend it's a girl because it makes me feel slightly better about life to think that there are less than a grossly insignificant portion of girls in the poker population. It would be nice if that were the case. Just for variety, and you know, there's no reason why there shouldn't be. But anyway, if that's her first hand at the table, then this guy looks really active. Maybe I can just fold 3-4 just to show him I can fold the buttons since we've gone heads up here. We'll play a bit of heads up, that's fine. I've actually played a bit of heads up live at the casino in Bristol, which was really random. There was like this drunk Irish guy, and the table broke. I went over there because it was a 4-handed table and I wanted to like grind that instead of playing 4 hands an hour at full ring. And then the table broke, the other 2 guys kind of left, and I said to the guy, "You okay playing heads up?" And he was like, "Yeah, I love heads up," and he was sort of like slurring all over the place. But unfortunately he quit me after like 3 hands. It was a shame. I didn't like stack him or anything, he just quit me. It's not often that you get to play live heads up in a casino unless you're a mega stakes baller with a private poker suite or whatever. Definitely an easy C bet on table 2. So yeah, I raised against this girl because I think the poster just doesn't want to get too out of line. They can have any two cards when they just post then check, and I have a nice connector and I can sort of see bet. Even being out of position there, I can see bet and take it down post flop and things like that, so it's probably totally fine. Easy, easy, easy double barrel. If there's ever a spot to double barrel, this is it. Why? Because my range gets a hell of a lot stronger. Any kind of draw, backdoor draw that I'm c-betting on the flop picks up equity. That becomes like the bottom of my flop betting range or something like that, or at least close to it. At least it's near the bottom of my flop betting range that actually has some equity. That's not like 12.5x open to hijack there on table 4. That wouldn't be ideal. So yeah, I mean, zero showdown value, some pot equity. Scary texture that's going to make my opponent fold lots of their range. Very good card for my range, but not for my hand, therefore bet and try and get fold equity, definitely. That's like slam dunk. If you're ever looking for factors that would persuade you to barrel the turn as a bluff or semi-bluff, that's a spot where they are all in place. It's pretty much ideal. So bear that in mind. Got a bit of a froggy throat. I think I did a lot of talking in between during at the weekend, which is probably why. Normally I spend my days alone in front of my computer screen crying, not crying, but kind of not speaking so much, just working away on various things. So yeah, that could be a possibility of why that is happening. So yeah, I'm at a bit of a crossroads in video making right now, in that I've not decided on a new series yet. I say a crossroads, I've not actually thought of any options, so can't really call it a crossroads, I guess. But I'm at a juncture where I'm looking for more ideas. I want to know what you guys think. You guys seem to have all disappeared and no longer exist, and are no longer posting on threads, but you are watching my videos, so unless that's JJB just sort of with computer programs pretending that we have members still, I think you guys are still out there and you're just kind of lurking in the shadows. So do come forth and tell me what you want to see, because there's a very good chance that if you come forth and tell me what you want to see, yes, you listening to this right now, if you come forth and tell me what you want to see in the next video, and it's a reasonable suggestion, it's not like, oh, I want you to talk about spots where we have ace king and we missed a flop and it's really tilting. I could talk about that actually, that's a reasonable example. Don't give me some dumb suggestion, give me any suggestion. I don't even care if it's dumb, in fact. I'll still do something. I might modify it slightly if I think it's like not ideal, but I will modify your suggestion and do it in some form or another. So you listening to this video, come forth and give me your suggestion, give me your input. Ace 10. I'm going to just squeeze for value here. I think that I just have like a hand that's in a great shape against this fish's small blind calling range / calling my 3-bet range, so yeah, I'm just really happy about that, basically. And I'm going to just c-bet here, one and done this board. There's not really too much else to do, I don't think. I pick up more equity here, but I think this is also a turn card that means he's never folding. So I could bet turn bet river and try and make him hero fold ace jack or something, but I don't have any king. He has like plenty king x in his range. Plenty hands get there, queen 10 gets there. Any hand like jack 10. King, queen, queen, jack, all pick up loads of equity and are never going anywhere. So this is a very good spot just to check back and realise your equity. Try and make your hand in the river, and if you do, put in a bet and get money. And that's not the best river in the world, but we do block flushes, and it's definitely going to be a bet if we're checked to, and a call if he bets, unless he shoves, in which case it's probably a fold. That's going to be a call though. I could raise, but I think it's too thin. I think his range is mostly 10x itself, and sometimes like 2-pair or whatever, but I don't know if that's going to call a shove, especially on like the flush river, the all scary flush river. If that was just an offsuit queen, I would definitely raise the river there, but with it being the queen of hearts, I don't think it's ideal. I just elected check, call the 8-9 there. I think this guy's going to call 5x. I don't need to 5x because the stack sizes, in fact I should probably 4x, but I just don't think he's going to go away. This is a spot where you need to just get the money in over 2 streets, because the board can get much worse. Bad things can happen for you such that you're no longer getting value, but you're way ahead of his range here, or at least comfortably ahead enough to get money in here, so it's just going to be a spot where we should get in and not fold. We'll lose here sometimes, of course, because he'll show up with like a flush or something, but he'll also min raise bluff the flop sometimes too. That's exactly the kind of note you want to take in these situations. You want to capture the fact that your opponent is spewy and is way more likely to be light and bluffing and things, having basically after losing a pot. I decided to call 4-bet ace queen here. I don't really like flatting it in the small blind. It's just not going to be so great. The fish can sometimes even like call with worse, and I think this just gets some folds from the hands that aren't at the top of his range. I have two very good blockers. If he shoves, I'll just fold. He doesn't seem to be. He seems to be more on the calling side of reg, or I don't know. At first I thought it was a fish because he was just doing things like min donking out and stuff like that. He's like some kind of reg fish of some sort. I'm actually going to c-bet this board. I just think my range is really strong, and I think that he may well just decide to blast at this if I check, and I don't need to bet super big here. I'm just going to bet like 13, and I think I can get folds from some overcards, and it's just the best way to play against those, especially if he doesn't have a heart. I give myself a very good price on a c-bet basically with a strong range. I can do this with like my whole range here because my range is very strong. I'm not cold 4-betting many hands here against his 3-bet of the fish open, so I think he has to give this a bunch of respect if he's thinking. So he calls. I don't think I want to keep barreling with this hand because it does have like some degree of showdown value, and it doesn't have very much equity when it's behind. It doesn't have like any draws or anything like that. So I think I'm just going to give up now. It's kind of sucks, but I don't really see a better strategy, to be honest. Like my range is very strong here, so I'm not worried about like being exploited as such. I can also check this turn. I will check this turn with aces and things like that, just to take advantage of floats, because I don't need more than one more street to get the money, and I can shove river. So definitely fine. I'll be checking a lot of my range on that turn. I'll also check some value hands as well, so I'm not getting like completely abused by having to check fold the turn every time I check here. I'm just going to follow through with my plan and fold the ace queen. It's a little bit unfortunate and annoying, but what to do? I expect, like, this guy, I don't know much about him. He seems kind of funky. He seems a little bit like he could be spewy, but I just don't think I have the equity to try and barrel that turn. I'm not sure he's going away a significant enough portion of the time. So yeah, I guess I like my line there. I like it pre-flop for sure, because I think his range can be a lot wider than just sort of queens plus ace king. I think he can have a lot of stuff that can either fold to the 4-bet, that's kind of like value. I mean, I do expect him to be linear there when he 3-bets the fish, but I don't expect him to be like nutted or anything. I expect his range to still be like fairly wide for value, so I think ace queen is doing okay against that range. Doesn't really want to flat, although I could be convinced that flatting is better just because the fish comes along. Maybe flatting is better because the fish comes along more. It's just being out of position with ace queen off is kind of like bleh. Not the most happy situation to flat in, I don't think. I have the worst position post flop, and my hand is just kind of not ideal. I'm going to 3x here because I need to build a bigger pot against this fish. I've made this reason 1,000 times, I'm sure the definite article has in his videos as well. This is just an unbelievably standard adjustment you guys need to be making. You need to be making your button opens bigger when you have like raging fish in the big blind. Just get more money in the pot in position, make more money against them in general. I'm going to check back here and not fold on a lot of turns. This turn, not the best in the world. He does look super active though, so I'll probably call a bet on it. And yeah, as played, I'm going to check. I'm going to call river, of course, because fish will just randomly bet here with all sorts of stuff. I bet 2 because I can't resist, and I want to get called by king high. I should maybe bet 1 or 150. I said the best hand almost always. And I might even get some ridiculous fish call from like pocket fives just because he has no idea what he's doing and doesn't realise that his hand is the board. That's possible. I've seen it happen. I think we need to bet river. We're just good all the time. Only good things can really come out of it. I'm going to lead the gut shot here. I wouldn't lead if I didn't have any equity at all because people don't go away so much in this kind of spot. when we get called and this river comes down, he either like pairs it, makes a straight, or has a hand like ace-6, he's never folding, she's never folding. So I should just give up, I think. Might get her to fold 8-5, but even then it's not a certainty. I mean, who knows what these people are going to do. Jack-6 against a really tight opener. I think this is fine to just go ahead and fold. And Queen-6, 10% 3-bet. I think I should protect my small blind range there and just open a little bit tighter. Queen-6 being a little bit weak. And with ace-7 here, I'm going to elect to 3-bet, just for value basically, and because I want to have initiative to c-bet, and I think that my opponent will likely continue with almost anything, which is nice for me, and I'm going to just c-bet this board, and make it fairly big as well, because I think that, oops, let's open there, just because our opponent looks like they're folding too many blinds. We can get folds from overcards there, we have loads of equity, and we don't really have a better line that starts by checking, so easy c-bet. I make it a bit bigger than normal just because the pot, for a 3-bet pot that is, just because the pot was kind of smaller due to pre-flop, and when I'm against a fish, I kind of don't want to get called by like ace-jack there. I'd rather bet big enough that I think I can make them fold hands like that. So I like my sizing, I think. I could go maybe a little bit smaller, but no biggie. So I want to show you guys actually my website and what I've been sort of doing to it recently. I've added a bunch of sections to it that I want to show you basically. So I'll need to remind myself to do that before I wrap up today, because there's some interesting poker content on there as well, kind of like articles and just some free stuff for you guys to check out as a bonus to your Grinder School subscription. You should know about it. Afghan fish. Nice. I'm guessing that's some kind of... Where is he from? Maybe Russia. I just 5x'd accidentally because I thought that was the 50 NL table. Obviously the green and blue are not like distinctive enough for my mind to be able to differentiate. That's okay though. This is not the worst 5x in the world because this guy's a fish and we're deep. We're not deep because I only have 100 big blinds, but he's a fish. So getting 10 big blinds in there before the flop isn't like a disaster. I'm not going to go for 3 streets here. Thus I'm going to check back flop and just make sure I don't get raised. And get value on the turn and river basically. My hand's pretty invulnerable. It's like a way ahead, way behind kind of spot. I don't really need to have a reason to bet there. And now I'm going to call with 2 pair. And call on the river as well. Not thrilled about the river, but he's a random fish. We can't fold top 2 pair that starts with top pair against a random fish, I don't think. He does pot it though, which really sucks. Okay, I think like this is either a 10 or he's just bluffing. And I'm going to call because if I fold, I'm folding my whole range. That's not necessarily a disaster against the fish by any means. But that said, I only need 33% equity. He can just be spazzing out ridiculously with some kind of random hand, and I have 2 pairs. So, yeah, you know, if he's like ever overvaluing like 2 pair there himself, it's definitely the kind of spot that I want to defend in. That's the kind of hand I want to defend with. Yeah, I can have a 10 there myself, I suppose. That's not actually true what I said that I don't have a 10. I can do because I can check back that flop. With hands like Jack 10, Queen 10, and then just call turn. For sure. So maybe I don't need to call there, but yeah, he doesn't look passive so far, he looks random. And anyone that looks random when you need 33% equity and you have a hand that starts with the toppest pair and is 2 pair, even when it's a 4 to a straight board, I think is a call. But it's not the most fist pump of all the calls in the world, for sure. Dunno, close spot, close spot. I like being a station though. When it's close, err on the side of being a station. If it's close, but don't like talk yourself into horrible, horrible river calls because you're telling yourself it's close and character set if it's close, be a station. No, absolutely not. This is a call for sure. My hand is just like plays fine multi-way. It's just the part of my range I want to just flat with. I don't really want to squeeze there. If I had a hand that wasn't so great to call there, I would definitely consider squeezing. I'm going to defend a6 just because this guy's really bad. It's not because I think that this is a super profitable defend. I think it's probably slightly better than folding because my opponent's just slightly worse than terrible. And I'm not going to bluff here. I do have ace high, I beat some hands, and I don't think I get a better hand to fold like ever. So pretty standard give up. Same on the bottom left, there's no reason to ever bet here. It's just going to be a showdown and hope that 8 is good. Continuing to 3-bet. This guy's like a reg now, I've decided. I don't know why. He did min donk before the video started, and there was obviously like maybe misclicked or was just messing about, and I thought he was a fish, so it certainly worked, making me think he was a fish. He's definitely a reg. Apparently he's got an 86% fold to 3-bet, although it seems like he doesn't fold that much. So easy 3-bet with king queen. I don't have a flying range there. I have a reg in the blind, so I don't want a flying range. I'm going to get too abused having one, so that's just anything I'm playing is a 3-bet. I'm certainly playing that hand, so it's a 3-bet, nice and simple. No need to overcomplicate things there. We don't even need to even look at our spectrum approach necessarily. We can look at it. We can look at it in terms of the spectrum, and we can say like, okay, we have one part to our range here, and that's 3-bet for value, but it's not really that simple because we might 3-bet some hands that are not necessarily ahead of our opponent's opening range. Our opponent's defending range rather, but they are still really profitable 3-bets, but it's not clear that they're bluffs either because not that many better hands are going to fold and things like that, but it's still a 3-bet because we're in a small blind, we don't want to flat them, we don't have that calling range part, that's gone away, so a lot of the hands that would be in that in a polarized spectrum model just become like 3-bets because 3-bet is good because we're not flatting. So it's not as simple, it's not as concrete as is it for value as it's a bluff. King Queen is for value, but there are hands I might 3-bet there, like Jack 10 suited, that are just kind of neither. They're just kind of like, I guess, a bluff if you had to pick one, but they're just kind of 3-bets because 3-betting is best. I'm going to open because we've got this fish in the blind. He probably thinks I'm like crazy because I play lots of hands, so. Going to open the King 9 as well because we have Afghan fish, who seems to be a fish, a net fish. I guess like if I was like fighting in Afghanistan, I don't think people are fighting in Afghanistan anymore, but hypothetically speaking, I'd probably just want to play like kind of crazy at 10 NL because I wouldn't, if I'm going to die any day or get blown up by a landmine, I wouldn't be so bothered about whether or not I lost a few buy-ins, probably. I'd probably become even crazier than, and aggro than I already am. Let's check how long we have been going. 42 minutes. Okay, so we're going to wrap up in a minute, and I'm going to give you guys a very brief tour of what's going on at carrotcorner.com, which is a website that, yeah, linked to Grinder School being my website, and something that you should be able to experience the poker content of as well as a bonus to your subscription. I am not charging your subscription to read my ramblings, fortunately. That would be a little bit too narcissistic and cruel and pointless because no one would pay just to hear me ramble. Right, although you kind of do that anyway, but with a bit of poker content mixed in. Let's raise here with 8s. I think the hand is just good enough. This guy's fairly short, but I don't care. I think that he's going to continue, and then I should be able to like c-bet profitably and just navigate okay post flop. These kind of flops really suck, but I think we can just check these kind of boards. 5-6 is good enough to defend, so I don't really need to 3-bet that hand. I'm going to call a bet of 1, of course, and check raise his turn and try and get all the monies in. We make it 5, there's like 10 left into a pot of sort of 15 or something, so that's fine. We can just shove river, easy fold with the nothing on the 25 NL table, and he folds turn, so whatever. Right, let's set our next big. Always do this, by the way. Never like, unless you're seriously tilted, like don't quit your session without setting out next big. Like don't snap leave unless you think you're going to do something like suicidal within the next few hands, because you're just missing out on free hand EV, which is nice, and you don't want to miss out on that. I'm going to 3-bet ace queen suited. I think it's just far too good to flat here. Yeah, I mean, I do have a fish ahead of me who I wouldn't mind playing with, but I will well be out of position post flop, and the hand just does so well against a continuing range there from the button that I think I need to just flat. I'm going to start by checking here. we call three-way when this guy opens and the fish calls behind. I'm going to call this because I'm a backdoor flush draw and I do have top pair. It's not the best thing in the world. I'm just going to check fold here on the blue table because it just sucks. I have no equity, my opponent's range is tight, he's folded too much pre-flop. That's where my equity comes from, that's where my fun comes from. So I'm not so bothered about c-betting a board that's just pretty bad. Against Afghan Fish, I'm just going to c-bet everything here. I'm not going to have a checking range. And this is going to be a call. Jack turn, I expect him to check back a lot, at which point I'm probably just going to have to bet river fairly small. Like, my range is really strong here, there's not much I can do about that. If he bets turn and river, I'll probably fold river, because I just don't think many people fold trips or perceive to fold trips there. So yeah, I think that would be okay. Yeah, this is just the kind of spot where I think I have to bet kind of small. I mean, he could like be a bad hand reader and just never be folding aces, but he should be folding aces here in my opinion because my range is like pretty strong here. But if I bet small, then it's the case that I can also have hands like tens that are going for like thin value or something, or I can perceive to have those, be perceived to have those hands. So it's important not to like blast that river because it just wouldn't really make any sense, and we just don't have any air in our range that's really going to do that. Maybe we have like ace five of clubs, ace five of diamonds, ace three of diamonds, ace three of clubs. Those hands we do have, but they're not very many combos. Sometimes I click sit out and I forget I'm supposed to be sitting out and I just hit him back like automatically, assuming I've like timed down or something. It's quite embarrassing. We get called here, we do have some showdown value, we can win at showdown. We don't think we have very much fold equity on the turn. If that spot where we had the opening straight draw on the king turn was the perfect model of a spot to c-bet the turn as a bluff, this is the perfect model of a spot to not c-bet the turn as a bluff and to check back. And I'm going to check river as well. I think I just have sufficient showdown value to do that. He'll have bustle draws that just missed, he'll have like random gut shots that haven't got there. I don't need to bluff this hand, and whether a fish ever folds like 7x even to check bet, to bet check bet is debatable, so check is good. Two regs ahead of me, neither seems super aggro. I'm gonna just open this hand, I think I can get away with it. I'm gonna go 2.5x though, because I don't want to allow myself to get 3-bet and abused by 3xing with two of these guys ahead of me. If I was on the button I would 3x because it's just less likely I get abused with only one reg to act there, who's fairly straightforward so far. This guy donks, I'm just going to fold. I can't really do very much there with king 8. I mean, there was a time when you could raise those donks and fish would just donk fold everything, but those days are past and fish have now moved on to the point that when they don't actually fold very often to raises, which is kind of annoying but very nice when you actually have a hand. This is my website. I might get one more hand that's going to pop up, but we'll just deal with that when it happens. We're mostly sat out. That's a poem, which is not very much to do with poker, it's just the most recent thing I posted. Yeah, I won't ramble on about that, you can check out the other stuff if you want to. So, carrotcorner.com is my website, and this is my poker coaching section, where I tell you all about why you should hire a coach, some frequently asked questions about coaching that are worth checking out if you are considering looking into private coaching at some point in your poker journey. Then I've got these sub-pages here, like my credentials, which is like the graph and things that you'll see on grinderschool.com and stuff like that. Tens is going to be an open, which is fun. And some reasons about why, that's my poker coaching CV, like why I think I'm a good choice for a coach. And I've got some testimonials, which are like from my students, what they have to say and their results, their success under me basically, which is me bragging and advertising at the same time, I suppose. And then, let's play this hand first. Okay, so Queen 5 deuce. I'm going to just bet here just so as to not give away a free card unnecessarily. I don't know how likely this guy is to stab if I check, so let's protect our hand and get value. We can also get value by check calling, but I'd rather do that against someone more aggro. And again, someone who was going to do annoying things like raise the flop and put me in a shit spot sometimes with all his top pair and a bunch of air or something like that. Okay, so that's the end of our session. So I'll go back to this. And I write a lot of poker, or at least I have the intention to write a lot of poker articles. I've not written so many yet, but I'm getting there. This one is called Chess Poker Life, Chess Poker and Life, and it's about how the three relate to each other with respect to like some concepts that are pretty common that we sort of come across a lot. Subjectivity being the first one, how objective or subjective something is, and I've examined chess, poker, and life and how they sort of tie in together. There are other poker articles as well, like this one is about the public's misconceptions about poker players and how annoying it can be, and it's like an FAQ guide to people who don't know anything about poker and the answers that you can give people to sort of explain what you do and stop them judging you and being dumb. So there'll be more poker content coming on there very soon though. That's my website. If you're interested in checking it out, please do. I would be very grateful if you'd have a look and even follow me or whatnot if you are on WordPress. It's a WordPress site, so you can follow me here. So yeah, hope you enjoy my live play video. There's going to be another one next week. Merry Christmas and all of that as well. This will be coming out probably pretty close to Christmas time, so hope your holiday season is going well and all of that. And I hope to hear from you guys with some suggestions and some feedback, of course, on the forums. Let me know what you want to see next. This has been Characters for GrinderSchool.com, and good luck at the tables. See you soon.